Good afternoon from Hopalong Hollow. This is Jerry. I'm going to start out the day with showing you these marvelous, marvelous seed packets. Somebody told me about this company, the Hudson Valley Seed Company, simply because she knew that I love beautiful seed packets, and don't we all? But just look at these. They're done by different individual artists, and each one is absolutely special in its own rights. Just take a look at some of these beautiful packets. Velvet Queen Sunflower. Now I've got this growing in my garden right now, as seed hasn't opened yet, from a different seed company. But this I purchased just for the art. Now each packet of these seeds runs around $3.50 a packet. Feels like quite a few seeds in here. Not an abundant amount, but basically you are purchasing the artwork, in my opinion. On the back tells you what you've got, and it also gives you the name of the artist. In this case, art by Lisa Perrin. Each one is an individually created piece. Look at this Joker lettuce. Isn't that absolutely great? I really, really appreciate beautiful art on seed packets, and they knew long ago, I mean, when they first began creating seed packets back in the 1800s, that the illustration on the packets and in the catalogs really needed to be beautiful. And then somewhere along the way, seed companies got lazy. Some companies don't even put an image on their packet, which I find ridiculous, but that's just the way it is. And you know what? Don't buy from those companies. Oh, that's not true. I do buy from one of them just because I can buy the seeds in bulk. However, you are paying a little extra for the seed packet, but it's something you can keep. I think this is my favorite one right here. This is my favorite packet. Mexican sour gherkins, and you can probably see why I love it, because of those wonderful little mice on there. And the artist for this piece is Wendy Edelson. So I want to give a big thumbs up for all the artists that created this wonderful work, and also the Hudson Seed Company that took the initiative to create beautiful seed packages. I'm going to buy every single one of them. So we're just going to start out here in the garden room. We'll probably end up in the garden room at the end of the video as well. But we're just going to take a walkabout, see what's happening in the gardens we've planted over the last couple weeks, and also take a look at one of our little hens who had a really nice surprise over the last couple weeks. So let's go visit my little hen, Demelsa. This is lovely Demelsa. I bought her as a baby chicklet last year, and she was raised by a broody hen. And now Demelsa is a broody hen. And for those of you who don't speak chicken talk, broody hen is a hen that wants to have babies. So today I'm going to go to the farm store and I'm going to buy her some little chicklets. Now I won't let her sit on her own eggs because the chances are pretty good I'd end up with a bunch of roosters. And we don't want any more roosters. We just want little hens. And at the farm store, all they sell are little female pullets. So she's going to be in for a nice surprise tonight. Right now she's sitting on plastic eggs and marble eggs, but she doesn't know that. She thinks she's sitting on real eggs. Hey, little barred rocks. And over here, little buff Orpingtons. So in the past with the broody hen, I've just brought the chickies home and I've just slipped them right underneath their belly, and they immediately took to them. I even had a duck that raised, I had a chicken that raised a little duckling before, along with her chick. But when I brought these chicks to her yesterday, she was absolutely horrified. She hated them. She was snapping at them and threatening them, and I thought for sure she would peck them to death. So I took them in the house for the night. And then this morning, I put them in the box right next to her basket and let her get just used to their presence for hours. And every once in a while, I would pop one in here with her. The fencing is up here so they don't go running off the porch. But it seriously took a long time for her to actually accept them. And now they're picking on her. But it worked. Persistence paid off, and had to keep it really a close eye all day long to make sure she didn't hurt them. But now I think she's settled into being mommy, and I am not going to worry about a thing now. So, have a good night to Milsa with all your little new babies. All right, good job, girl. Good job.
You don't know I'm looking. With you everything's complete. Do you know how much I love you? I put your favorite song on just to wake you up. When I dance around, I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. 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 I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? Forever. 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 I watch you as you drive. Do you know I'm looking?
Okay, Beatrix Potter Patch. Not exactly like the paper garden, but pretty nevertheless. So here we have the phlox in bloom. The bee balm in the back in bloom. The Beatrix is starting to open from the top down with shaggy little purple heads here. And here you can see the tiny little flowers of phlox. Hummingbird bee. At least that's what I call him. He looks like a little hummingbird. Look at those wings go. Fascinating bee. Got a lot of thick snapdragons down in there. You can see it's quite a nice mound of snapdragons. The problem is they just are not blooming. Except for this one. You can remember back when we did this planting in this garden. Wasn't much going on here. I am really surprised at how tall those phloxes are. But I'm so glad I put them in the back. Up front here though, the tubers that we planted, the dahlias, seem to be getting off to a very slow start. And of course, this is a Bellini dahlia, and it only gets to about 12 to 16 inches tall. Nevertheless, I think I better give these a little bit of fertilizer. This is one of the few Peabody boys who still has most of his feathers. The rest of them have dropped their feathers all over the yard, which is what they do in July. And they start growing them all over again. He's trying to intimidate little honey pot here. Hello, honey pot. But she's not going to have any of it. Do you hear that tap, tap, tapping noise? Well, a downy woodpecker is making a hole over here in the pergola. Now, the reason they do that is they store acorns in those holes and just stuff them full. So, they can come back later and get them. A beautiful chaste bush. It is always, always covered in bees. Solitary bees, bumblebees, honeybees, carpenter bees, and tiny little bees you can barely see. They simply love this bush. I sure hope the camera is picking these up. Here you can see the teasel as it's blooming, and it blooms in such a strange manner. It will start from the center or the top, and it will just start to make little, very pale lavender blossoms. The bees just love this stuff too. And it looks like a very lethal plant, doesn't it? This part is incredibly painful if you touch it. But the tops are not too bad, actually. Oops. Sorry, buddy. Now, I've noticed that the blossom never seems to fully fill in, because as the centers blossoms start to blow away in the wind as seeds, then the bottom and the top will bloom. But never once have I seen these fully covered in blooms. Blossoms, I should say. Little blossoms. Oh, I'm so grateful for this rain. Notice how the water pools up at the leaf base where those two leaves are conjoined together. And it was said that weary travelers would dip their finger into the water and rub it in their weary eyes. And they called these little pools of water tears of Venus here in the Teasel Plant. So teasel is a herb. It likes poor soil, anything from boggy to dry soil. It grows 2 to 6 feet tall, and it's a biennial. So the seed heads are useful for bird seed. They are also great for the pollinators. As you notice, they love it. They're great for dried flowers. But the name of teasel came from the fact that they used to use this to tease fiber from wool, making it easier to spin, sort of like carding your wool. I'm going to let some of these dry, and I'm going to give that a little experimental try. Of course, I wouldn't want to do a whole lot of wool with this, but I can see why it would actually work as a great wool carder if you didn't have anything else. It's said to be a medicinal plant, which is an anti-inflammatory, supposedly treats Lyme disease, and the roots are used for an ointment. Well, I'm just growing it in my garden for the pollinators and for the beautiful and wonderful seed heads. And now we're going to move along here because I love to film a garden after the rain. This is where some of the sweet peas were, but now it's gotten so terribly hot that they are pretty much over with their season. And to take their place, I've put purple hyacinth bean plants in here, and they're starting to grow. They're just traveling up those old pea vines. I don't know how the zinnias ended up in this garden, but here they are. And we've got some little baby pumpkin plants. I love filming a garden after a rainstorm. The earth is so black and rich looking, and the plants just seem so grateful and relieved to get a drink. It's been so hot and dry here lately. It's just been absolutely miserable. But that wonderful thunderstorm really did wonders here in the garden. This is the Maidens garden that we planted from seed. Just a few weeks ago, we did a video on that. And you can see that the seed has really taken off. I'm really, really pleased with it. Here we have those beautiful little dwarf yellow cosmos blooming here in the front. And then we've got the rudbeckia, the yellow black-eyed Susans there. I think that the Natal dahlias are doing pretty well in this garden. They're a lot bigger than they are in my Beatrix potter patch. Here we have the cherry red rudbeckia, planted from seed. And right back here, those pale yellow zinnias. I don't know if you can see them, but I really like that color. So I wanted a lot of yellow in here, and some dark rusts and some reds. So now here we have the cherry brandy rudbeckia planted from seed this year, and it doesn't look all that impressive yet. But rudbeckias are perennials, and once they get going, they really, really take off, and they become very, very full. As you can see by this black-eyed Susan, which is also a rudbeckia. Look at the size of that one. So I'm expecting great things from this plant. Probably not till next year, though. We'll let it drop the seed. After they've bloomed, I'll just let them drop those seeds right here in this garden. Because I want this to be a self-perpetuating garden, I'm going to let everybody drop their seed. That means that this beautiful pale yellow zinnia will be back again next year, probably without my ever having to replant the seeds, because they will drop their own seed, and I'll just have zinnias here forever. Here in the front we've got some straw flowers. Once again, we've got some yellow yarrow that's coming up from seed. We've got penstemons, which will be purple, and the sunflowers are reaching up to the sky, getting taller and taller. They haven't opened, obviously. Not a lot of things have opened, except for those little cosmos. But they're looking very beautiful, bright and cheerful, and that's what I wanted here, a very cheerful garden. Look at all those zinnias. These are the Natal dahlias, which would have a deep maroon pom-pom flower. And they were planted from tubers, one of the few things I didn't plant from seed. But, wow, this one's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty full, not very tall, but it's doing the right thing, that's for certain. So just go through your garden, and it's just so exciting to see what is happening. Just week by week, things will change so much. This is the yellow yarrow. Another perennial that will return year after year and just get bigger and bigger. The cosmos is an annual, but it drops seed, so that's another great self-perpetuating plant for this garden strip here. So combine your perennials and your annuals and your tubers and your vines, because we have pumpkins in here too. When all is said and done, you will end up with a wonderful cottage garden. Here we have forget-me-nots that haven't opened. Of course, the yarrow hasn't opened. It has a long way to grow. I think it's going to be a very colorful August, because everything took its sweet time in the blooming department, that's for certain. Look at that pure blue of those forget-me-nots when they do open. That is a pure blue flower. I know why these sunflower plants are in the front. It's because I had put sunflower seed out for the wild birds so they would not eat it off the ground, but they knocked a lot of it right into the garden, and it created some extra sunflowers for us, so that's great. And in the back, got some more yellow blooms on those sugar pumpkins. I've actually been pretty happy with the success of this garden in such a short time, and love the fact that 99% of it was directly sown from seed, with very few exceptions. The sedum was already here. I had put that in from transplanting it from other gardens, so that is an exception. But everything else, seeds and a few things that I planted from roots. Now I can't wait for the reds to start blooming, because there were a lot of deep rusts and reds planted in this garden as sunflowers and dahlias, so I'm looking forward to that. The only thing I have to do is try to keep up on the weeding in here, and that's been something you have to be diligent about. Toasty on both sides. It takes about 5 minutes per side for a 1/4 inch sliced green tomato. Yum! Fried green tomatoes and fresh watermelon. A great snack on a midsummer's day. I never had fried green tomatoes until I moved to Tennessee about 30 years ago. And I love them. In fact, I'm not really a tomato fan, but fried green tomatoes, in my opinion, are the best way to eat tomatoes. Here's some panting. That's one of the dogs. That's Keats. He's in the garden room here with me, and I had to turn the fan off while I film this video, or it's just too loud. Don't worry, buddy. I'll turn that fan back on in a few minutes. Anyway, the secret, in my opinion, to getting really good fried green tomatoes is to start out with a nice, firm, hard green tomato without any red on it. Because once it starts to turn red, it starts to get juicy, and you want to get all the water out of it. That's the purpose of all the salt that you're using. You're salting it, it's bringing the water to the surface, and then you just damp that juice and water right off of the tomato. Then you cook it. So you want to make sure that your oil is really hot, really hot before you put them in, so they don't break up and crumble all throughout the oil as it's cooking. And these ones turned out really well. And my secret component, not really a secret, but what I really like to make them super crunchy is this particular cornmeal that I use. I like to use a medium grind cornmeal. It's stone ground, whole grain. You can get it in many different browns. This just happens to be the one I have and I like, and it makes them really crunchy and hearty. And I use olive oil, which makes it a little healthier. And then you can dip them in all sorts of things. I'm just using some ranch dressing right here. I really wasn't kidding when I said our tomatoes are famous here in Granger County, Tennessee, because Granger County just happens to be a really good place, or we have really good soil for growing very flavorful tomatoes. And Granger County tomatoes cost more than any of the other tomatoes in the grocery store around here. But I never have to grow them myself because I can easily get them down at the farmer's market. Although I do have quite a few plants out there growing tomatoes just because they're so easy to grow. So, fried green tomatoes, some nice refreshing cold watermelon, and a cup of lemonade is a great way to have a summer snack or appetizer. And there's a lot of different sauces you can use or make for the fried green tomatoes, or you just eat them the old-fashioned way with salt and pepper. So I hope you'll give these a try because they really are yummy. They're a little bit tart because of the green tomatoes obviously have a little tartness to them. And if you don't like that, add a little sugar to the tomato before you fry it. We started the video in the garden room, and we're going to end the video in the garden room as well. So here you can see some of the teasel after I've picked it, and I've scraped off those spiky thorns off the stems. These are great in vases with other flowers, and they also make great dried flowers, as you can see. And actually when they dry, they start turning brown. I will try to card some wool with these just to see how it was done. I wouldn't want to do a lot of wool with these. That would be a very time-consuming effort. But I think they're really fascinating. Having all those baby chicks around inspired me for a new venture that my husband and I are undertaking. So I want to end this video by inviting you to my next video, which is in just a few days and completely different from these, because these are going to be very short videos introducing you to Hopalong Hollow Emporium. Allow me to explain. For decades and decades, I have been doing art shows, art festivals, craft shows, etc., etc. All across the country. I have done shows from New York to California over the past 35 years. And actually, the fact is, my husband and I have been talking for years about cutting back on our shows simply because the traveling and the headaches and the misadventures that you often get on the road are getting to be a little bit too much. As much as I love meeting my customers, I absolutely do, I need to find a better way. So we really want to cut down on our shows, and one way that we've decided to do that is to have shows right here, once a month. Not physical shows, but, and I hate to call them online shows. I just don't like that. It just sounds so, I don't know, 2020. I prefer to call it Hopalong Hollow Emporium, where once a month I will be introducing something new that I've created. We're going to start out with these little needle felted chicks, which are not quite finished yet. I'll be introducing them to you in a very entertaining way. I hope that you'll be able to clearly see how I have made them, what went into it, what was involved, how much time it took, and get a good idea of what they look like, what they feel like, and perhaps you'd like to have one in your own possession. Maybe you'd like to adopt a little chick, or maybe a large rabbit or a raccoon, whatever it may be. And it isn't necessarily going to be needle felting. It could be many different things. I will also be creating new artwork, new prints, maybe new greeting cards, all sorts of things. And you'll be the first ones to see the work. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think of it as a new adventure for me. This also gives me a chance to finish that garden book that I showed you a couple weeks ago. If I'm at home, I'm going to be able to create a lot more work. I'm going to be able to create a lot more interesting little characters. And so I hope you'll come along and join me in just a few days for our first Hopalong Hollow Emporium. I see there's a little ant teeny tiny little ant crawling on a chickie's head. But anyway, from Hopalong Hollow, this is Jerry, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye.